Reno's real estate market has been one of the hottest in the country over the past decade, but with interest rates all over the place and changing economic conditions and uncertainty in 2025, especially with politics, who the hell knows what's going on? Should you still invest here in Northern Nevada? So today we're going to break down the real data trends, the expert insights to help you make the smartest real estate decisions here in Northern Nevada. And we're going to talk about it from the first quarter of 2025. As always, I have Sydney Lessinger on. Sid, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And we want to talk about, because these are questions that we get from our clients, from people asking us, just walking around the world, is Reno still a good investment? Is Northern Nevada still a good investment? And we want to give them the information about those kind of things. And so as we're getting these questions and things are coming up, let's chime in and see what people have to say.
When people ask about that cash flow, depending on what you're trying to do, whether you're just trying to buy a property and hold that as your investment and not necessarily worry if it cash flows or not, we might still be a really, really great option for you. If you're trying to put 25% down and have it pencil immediately, we're not quite built for that anymore. As of 2025, our median sales price in Reno proper, this is not the surrounding areas, just Reno, is $615,000. For Washoe County and kind of more of the outlying areas, that does drop a little bit to about $570, but still 25% down on a property like that might not make you cash flow.
Well, and it's a little bit different for people that are looking to have a primary residence versus a rental property. Yes, the days of coming here, putting 25% down, making it pencil, those are over. It doesn't work. Trust me on that one. We property manage, it does not work. But if you're coming here and you're playing the long game like we're always talking about, average prices in the 600s, or if you're someone from California that just wants to get your money out of the market there and you're 1031ing big lumps of cash in order to buy things for cash here and having us property manage them, you can absolutely make that stuff work. But the question that we get all the time is the market, it's the whole crystal ball decision-making things, which we always laugh about. But what do we feel like the last couple of years, even leading into the rest of this year? What do we think is going on? Are prices going up? Are prices going down? What's the market looking like?
Our market, honestly, is going to stay pretty much the same. I will say, though, we do have about 19% higher inventory than we did this time last year. So the inventory is up, which is a positive sign for home buyers who potentially have been waiting. I will say, do not wait for interest rates to drop. We have been hearing the same runaround for the last 2 or 3 years about rates are dropping.
Right.
They haven't, and I don't foresee them having any sort of significant decline in the near future.
And if they do, great. But I keep telling
love it.
people it's time to get into the game now. And so it's always this market of, I kind of feel like when I first got into real estate, they always talked about 180 days, 6 months on the market was sort of an even buyer and seller market. And in today's world, I just think that's crazy, because if a house was on the market for 180 days, people always want to know what the hell is wrong with that house. I really feel like that 60 to 90 day time frame now is sort of where we're at. And I feel for the first time in a long time, it is as even as it's been for buyers and sellers in a long time, where some homes hit the market, get multiple offers, and it flies off. Other homes sit there for a while and they don't get a lot of action, and buyers have some room to write some offers and have some more negotiations, not just on price, but other things as we're working our way through the transactions. And I do still feel like there's a lot of sellers out there that are unrealistic about their price points, that the prices have still gone high, but everything I've read going forward, I still feel like at minimum, we're going to get what I call the cost of living price increases, where you're going to see this kind of 2 to 5% over the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
We'll see if things dramatically change. And I know in listening to one of my real estate mentors, Brian Buffini, was on a podcast recently, and he was saying if interest rates were to get down to 5.8%, all hell's going to break loose.
Yep.
Buyers are going to be coming out of the woodworks. Sellers are finally going to be able to give up some of those 4-ish% interest rates. Maybe people that are in 2s and 3s won't, but you'll see some more inventory come on the market. And I just think you're going to see that market get moving and get quick again. I don't know if that'll swing it one way towards the buyers or sellers, but I do think the last 2 years have been the lowest number of transactions in 30 years. It's been roughly 4 million to the last 2 years in a row. And when that happened 30 years ago, there was like 70 or 80 million less people in this country.
Yes.
So I do think it's more of how much churn and turnover are we going to see? And then we'll start to figure out which way that market's going to slide, one way or another. So we'll see what our feelings on that are going to be. Okay, so our next favorite question that we get when we're talking about these things, and you see a lot of people talk about the stats, is our probably least favorite one, the one we joke about the most, is days on market. So what is an average days on market for homes in our area right now?
So far, we've been sitting at around 25 days. 25
From the
days.
time it lists to the time they get an accepted offer.
Yes, that is not a closed transaction. So it got listed. Now we're in contract.
And what do you say to people, buyers and sellers for that matter? I'll give you my answer here in a minute on what or what days on market even means.
Well, it will depend. I think if you're seeing a long days on market and the house is in really good condition, you walk through it, you're like, this thing is brand new and nice. Why has it been sitting for so long? To me, that immediately screams price. Now, if you walk into a property and maybe it's priced fairly, but you're looking around going, ooh, I'm going to have a lot of work to do on this, and maybe it's not everybody's cup of tea, or if it's kind of a specific property, then days on market will be a little bit longer at that point.
I think it can be used well once a house is already listed for sale. My favorite question is when a potential seller thinking about putting their home on the market will say to me, how long do you think my home is going to take to sell? And it is literally only a couple of factors that will change that. Because I said, I can make your days on market today, or I can make your days on market 365 days. All depends on where you want to price your house. And so, of course, there's other things like market conditions and things that will affect that as well. But if you dramatically overprice your house, your days on market will be, it's never going to sell.
Right.
And if you think your home's worth, let's say we agree, everyone thinks the house is worth $650,000 and we list it for $550,000, we're probably going to get multiple offers this weekend and we're going to sell somewhere between $550,000 and $650,000. So that days on market number is always a little kind of sketchy to me. I never get too caught up in it because, again, it really depends on the skill level and the motivation of everyone involved, the sellers and that real estate agent. So is Reno still a strong investment market? And I think we just mentioned it. Coming into days of trying to buy brand new rentals and putting 25% down and making them pencil, no. But it's strong in terms of we do property management. You've talked with our property manager, Kyle, on a regular basis. And what are some things we've been talking about lately?
So she had said that our rental market has softened in terms of rental availability, price points that people can afford, things of that nature. Since Reno is such a growing city and there are a lot of kind of, not necessarily transient, but people who are coming here to rent for a year to then eventually figure out if they want to buy or not, the population is growing. I mean, we have been growing and growing and growing like crazy. And with a lot of everything, the new tech center out on USA Parkway, Sparks specifically has softened significantly, trying to find an affordable rental that has an easy, either property manager or, rules that you can live with. Because I know a lot of people who have cats or dogs or things of that nature. It can be difficult to find a rental that accepts all of that.
And when we say that the rental market's softened up, it just means that prices for rents are not going up anymore. I think they're pretty much flattened out. I think a lot of these apartment complexes that got built helped it as well, as far as keep rents kind of flat. But at the same time, there's not a lot of vacancy either.
No.
So there's plenty of demand at the current price point and levels that we are. So if you're thinking, hey, I'm going to wait and get something dramatically cheaper, I don't necessarily think we're going to get cheaper. And again, our property management portfolio, we manage roughly around 80 to 90 homes, give or take. And we have no vacancies at the moment. And when we do have vacancies, it's pretty short term that they're empty. It's pretty quick to turn from one person to another. So it just is. But again, like you said, what's driving that, especially in the rental market, is a lot of people are coming out to those USA Parkway jobs from other locations, and they're just renting because, again, they're not feeling job stability, job certainty. They're not sure they're going to be here for the long haul. It's just, hey, it got me from somewhere else to here. It's a good place to start, and they're trying to figure those things out. So, we'll see. But the rental market is definitely hard to find. And in some ways, it's more difficult to find rentals than to purchase because purchasing, we have a centralized location in the MLS and new construction versus rentals. It can be the homeowner renting it himself, apartment complexes, it can be property managed. There's lots of different places you can search. It's just so much more hit or miss.
I actually, coincidentally enough, get a lot of phone calls from people who are out of state who ask if we can help them find rentals. And for the most part, I mean, I can send them everything that we have in the MLS, but it is a little bit difficult to find rentals with an agent.
Right.
We have the same access to things that you do in the rental game, looking on Zillow and private settings or private websites for things like that is kind of your easiest and best way to go.
We did a little research, on average rents. What were some of the numbers that we came? So I think single family homes was roughly
$2,400.
Yeah, $2,200 to $2,400 based upon size. Obviously, you can find homes. We manage a couple homes that are $5,000.
Yep.
In high end areas, things like that. You can find things that are cheaper. More times than not, when people are here temporarily or not sure how long they're going to be, it's more of an apartment complex game.
Yes.
What are you seeing for those kind of rents?
So I wrote these down because I didn't want to get any wrong for you.
But totally fair.
Apartments on average for a studio, we're looking at about $1,000 a month. A one bed, $1,200 to $1,400. A two bed, $1,500 to $1,700, and a three bed, $2,100 to $2,300-ish. Now that will depend what apartment complex you go to, what kind of benefits they give you, maybe amenities, pools, gyms, and things like that might be part of your monthly fee.
Living in an area like we live in now, one person by themselves, pretty expensive.
Right.
But if it's two people, whether you're a married couple, whether it's roommates, whatever the case may be. I think it gets relatively affordable. I know a lot of people own homes that are renting rooms out in homes where people have $700 to $1,000 of rent. So there are affordable options. It may not be your perfect option. It may not be an ideal option, but there are ways to get here, get involved here, and start figuring out your personal financial situation so that at some point you can own real estate. I know it's a huge topic. We did a video on it. I'm probably going to do another more detailed video on it because people have all their opinions about renting versus owning, and there are times for both when it's good and bad.
Absolutely.
But I just really think as a long-term wealth building strategy, renting's not going to do it for you.
Right.
So there's things that we can talk about that going forward more in the future. If you're thinking about moving to Northern Nevada, do me a favor. Click the link in the description below. You can get a free copy of our buyer's guide that will help you get some information on starting your journey here to Northern Nevada. Some of the risk concerns, if people are buying real estate here or buying rental property here, what do you have to say about that?
Obviously, renting is a little bit riskier because there is no guarantee on what you're paying. Obviously, you can change how your mortgage is structured over time, but that's your decision. When you're dealing with a landlord or a property manager, your choices are not always your own. So you have to be careful with your rules and restrictions that you would have in a rental versus what you would have owning your own property.
Well, and we keep talking about with the interest rates too, because they've been all over the board.
Yes.
It has slowed things down. And I know a lot of people have been waiting for prices to come down. And even in the last 2 years, it is rare for the prices to come down. And my concern for people is if the rates do go down, and at some point, whether it's later this year or next year, at some point, if rates do get to the low sixes or under 6, if you think it's hard to afford things now, it's going to be pandemonium when the market gets really rocking and rolling again, because it hasn't really been rocking and rolling until like early in the pandemic when, for whatever reason, it seemed like a lot of people were moving home or working from home. So it seemed like a lot more was going on than should have been.
Yeah.
So just something for people to think about. And again, trying to make those predictions. We've stopped making interest rate predictions because
we don't know.
Nobody knows. And you never know what Trump is going to say and how it's going to affect the real estate markets and people's wealth feelings and all that kind of stuff. So you just never know. I just know this. If you can buy something now that you're comfortable with and you can afford the payment at a 7% rate, you should try to get into it now, because if the rates do go falling, you're going to win twice. You refinance to a low rate, prices will go up, and you've won twice rather than waiting, and now fighting with everybody for houses. You and I have kind of felt like, sometime soon this dam is going to break, and into the second and third quarter, when I say the market's going to pick up, I mean, there's just going to be a lot more transactions happening. It's just, obviously, it's been 24 months of not a lot going on. And you see a lot of realtors, either one of two camps, either doing amazing or doing horrible. Luckily, we've been falling into the we're doing pretty well camp. And so we'll just have to see how things like that move forward. New construction.
Yes.
There just doesn't seem like there's lots available for new construction.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see how that all goes. I know D.R. Horton has been building homes probably the most predominantly in terms of the amount of homes being produced. D.R. Horton is all over the place. If you drive around in Reno, you eventually will stumble upon a D.R. Horton new build site, which is great. I mean, we need the inventory badly, and the demand for houses is increasing by the day. And as people continue to move here and continue to come here, we need it badly. And I think that that is an important thing to keep an eye on as those developments cease to stop building and they become established homes as the turnover rate continues in the future.
So let's give a real quick update on kind of the best investment strategies. We wrote 4 of them down. They're kind of your customary investment strategies you see people. And I know my personal choice is always buy and hold long-term.
Yes.
Now, I've been buying and holding long-term in another state just because I live here. My real estate happens here. I own an office building here. And I just don't want to be overdone and overcooked on real estate here. I think anyone who buys a house right now and holds it for 30 years, which is rare, people don't do that anymore. But if you did, you're going to be sitting in a really great place as someone who's 24 years old. If you're sitting here now in my seat at 54 years old and you owned your home free and clear, I'm going to guess if you bought an average home at $600,000, it's going to be worth a whole lot more. And we can have that whole argument about rent versus own and how owning might cost more. But at the end, at least you own something, and rentals, it's so much all over the place. So we won't go into too much detail. I think everyone gets the whole hold it and long-term strategy. The second one is short-term.
Yeah.
I personally never done short-term. I know some people have done Airbnbs and the VRBOs and those kind of things.
Yeah.
Are we getting many clients asking about that?
Not necessarily for them to purchase one and have a short-term rental. I think we get asked about them more so for people to come stay in them to visit, to find their home. But I think there's a different risk factor when you're doing a short-term rental than when you're doing a long-term. When you get somebody in there and they're signed into you for a year, oh, well, you have the peace of mind at that point. Well, I have this person for a year, or if I don't, I'm going to get money out of it because they're going to default on their lease. But I think short-term rentals, high turnover rate, lots of maintenance, lots of cleaning, lots more just activity at it all the time. So depending on what your kind of game plan for that is, if that's kind of what you want to keep you busy, it might be a great option.
You can potentially make more money doing it, but it's just like
Exactly.
anything else, a little higher risk, a little more damage to your property.
And definitely more work.
You definitely need more of a crew, and regular property managers like us, we cannot manage
Yes.
short-term rentals for you. Ours have to be at least 30 days or more. So something that people need to look at in certain areas and certain neighborhoods and certain HOAs will not allow for short-term, Airbnb type rentals, and it's becoming more challenging in some areas. So I know people who've done it, have great success with it. You can still do it here. It works, but you want to definitely be in areas maybe more midtown or easy access to Lake Tahoe. I think there's some definite areas in town that you would want to do it in more than others. So just things to think about when people are doing the short-term rentals. The other one you used to get tons and tons of with a fix and flip.
Yes,
You can still do it, but
yes, I see them often, and I've been in enough real estate at this point, I see them immediately. I don't even have to have the front door opened, and I know immediately that it was a fix and flip.
yeah,
They all do the exact same thing. The gray floor, the same marble countertop. It's the exact same in every house you go into. In terms of profitability, I'm not quite sure what people are getting out of them because I think it depends on your materials, what you're doing in terms of your own labor.
tighter
or
margins.
Yeah, tighter margins for sure. And I think we don't have a super ideal market for that.
Lipstick on a pig is what I call it.
Yes.
They do a lot of that, and it's funny because there used to be a guy who used to do a lot of them, and everyone was identical. You knew right away when they did it. And of course, the first thing we do as realtors is go look and say, what did they pay for it? Try to figure out what they put into it, and they should make some money. I'm not opposed to making some profit, and especially for a buyer that now does get a remodeled home, you just want to look at the quality of the remodel, quality of what they're doing there, because sometimes it is lipstick on a pig, and they want, to earn way more money than they should. You can still do it, a lot less options for you to do that kind of stuff and go from there.
So instead of that, instead of doing either a short-term rental or a long-term rental, would you ever recommend to people to do like a duplex or triplex, like multifamily?
The house hacking thing is a little bit of a challenge because the way they sell it, it would be someone like you. Right? You get a young person. It's a way to be able to get your first property and be able to buy it as a primary residence and move into it. And let's say you get a fourplex. But I don't know too many people that want to live in a unit and have their 3 renters all living right next door to them.
Right.
And multifamily buildings are typically more expensive. In our area and in most areas, they're mostly older and there's more work to be done for them. So is it something that theoretically could be a smart move? Yes. But I think it's for a very small number of people. Maybe if you were someone who was handy, someone that could do work on there, because again, you're living with your other renters and your other tenants, and you've got to find a way to be able to live with them and collect rent and like you're doing a lot of things all at once for someone who's a beginner. That could be a little bit tough on the house hacking thing, but for the right person, it could work really well. So it is something to explore for some people. But again, I would never have you, we do this,
Right.
go and say, let's go buy you a 60-year-old fourplex
Right.
and do it that way. It would be something that it'd be a little cautious with that, but something you see more and more coming up, it is a possibility. With all that being said, let's give our little crystal ball.
Yes.
Here's what we think is going to happen and our predictions of what we think we're going to see going forward in 2025, especially in the second and third quarter. Would you say our phone has been ringing more than ever?
Yes.
Or would you say that people that are watching these videos, we're getting more and more inquiries from them than ever?
Yes.
And do we feel at some point the dam is going to break and this slow turnover and slow churn of properties is going to start getting busier?
Yes, definitely.
So we've been talking about this for years. Now, I don't think it's going to dramatically affect pricing.
No.
Unless rates really fall. And I don't think it's going to dramatically affect like the negotiation power for buyers and sellers. I just think the speed of the market is going to pick up, and you better be prepared, because if there's something out there you like, the days of, I saw it on Tuesday, I'm going to think about it all weekend and wait till next Monday, that might go away a little bit more. I think just things are going to start to happen faster. And we've seen it with some of our own clients where certain houses are flying and other ones are going really slow. So, what would be some things that you're thinking about coming from a potential first-time home buyer? I mean, at this point, it's just something you're going to be thinking about here soon as, been out of college now, pushing almost 2 years, learned the business real well now, have a decent income, and now might be something you're looking at doing versus, renting.
Definitely. I think for people looking at, is this the right time for you? Don't listen to the media. Don't listen to other people saying, oh, it's a bad economy, don't buy right now. If you found a house that you can afford, or a price point at least that you can afford, that the homes are very easy to deal with. You don't have any sort of the roofs caving in or anything like that.
And a long-term play.
In a long-term play, it is always a good time to buy property. It is always a good time to buy real estate if you can afford it and the payment works for you.
And it goes into their whole financial plan. And if some people are having questions, concerns about that, it's something I do on the side. I'm more than happy to get more involved in people's financial stuff to see, does this make sense, or are they pushing the envelope a little further than they need to push it? So yes, Reno is still a good investment. Yes, it is still a great place to live. And yes, we would recommend people to reach out to us, put their plan in place, and ask us all the questions. If you're someone who's thinking about investing in real estate in Northern Nevada, or maybe even moving here, check out this video we did right here about all the pros and cons of Northern Nevada.